Good Thursday morning, Market Chameleons. Everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dimitri Pargamanik. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Good.
So,
You want to start with the disclaimer?
yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I and Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor, call your broker. That's what they're there for. There's the disclaimer.
All right.
And let me share my screen here. As I'm doing that, if you're joining us for the first time, Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to try to help answer questions you may have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data, the analytics. If you have a question, type it into that live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it. He'll read it back to me. And to give you guys a couple minutes to put those questions in, we'll start out taking a look at the pre-market report to see what kind of insights we could get on the pre-market activity, and then we'll move on to the questions. Okay. So let's start out with the pre-market report. And up here, we have this calendar view, which shows us from a high level what happened in the pre-market hours historically and today. So we can just eyeball in the last week what the pre-market activity looked like. You could go back further by opening up this calendar. However, today is February 8th, and so far we have 481 stocks trading higher in the pre-market, 371 stocks trading lower. If we then look at the volume, we have 202 million shares trading on the up volume, 52.5 million shares trading on down volume. And if we convert that volume to dollar value, we have $2 billion worth of stock trading higher versus $2.2 billion worth of stock trading lower. So I would say this is a little bit of a mixed bag in a pre-market. We can't really point to anything definitive of a super bullish or bearish lean in the pre-market trading. So what we'll do is look at it from a couple more perspectives, and then we'll move on to the questions. I'm going to scroll down, and now we see a list of stock symbols that are trading in the pre-market hours. We have the symbol, the price change in the pre-market volume, any type of alerts. And here we have 74 stocks. Well, we have three lists, our most active lists, our biggest percentage gainers, and biggest percentage decliners. On our biggest percentage gainers list, we have 74 stocks that got on this list, and 50 on our percentage decliners. So this points to a slightly more bullish lean in the pre-market trading. And to make this list, we do set certain thresholds for liquidity, price change, volume, because things in a pre-market can be liquid or trade with low volume. However, if the stock activity meets our thresholds in a pre-market and it's listed on a major U.S. exchange, it could make this list, including ETFs, including preferred stocks, closed-end funds. It could be an inverse ETF. So to narrow down this list to a smaller group of stocks, we could use the filters above. And if you have a watch list, you could filter by those stocks that you saved in your watch list. I'm going to use this filter in our example in ETF. When you click on it, you get a drop-down menu to select from. That first one is the SPY ETF. We're going to go and select that. And when we do that, the list below gets filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF and meet these particular thresholds. And these are the S&P 500 constituents. So here we see 15 stocks made our largest percentage gainers list and 11 on our decliners. So that points to a slightly bullish, a lean in the pre-market trading from that perspective. And we'll give it a couple minutes. If you have questions, I will take them at this point.
Nothing's popped up, D.
Okay. I think that we got dropped yesterday. We were in the middle of discussing pre-market analysis, and I do believe for whatever reason we got cut off. We didn't realize that until the end.
Actually, we realized it earlier. I just didn't want to interrupt you as
Okay.
it was going. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize it until
Yeah.
until it was over. And what we talked about was, how to use some of these tools to start looking deeper into the pre-market activity. Right. So these aren't alerts to, to do this or that. It's data to help us analyze and understand and get more information about what does the trading look like, what are people doing, how are they expressing their opinions and so forth, and how are things trading. So as you could see here, we started out taking a look at, well, initially just from a high level of what's going on, that this is the going on in the entire market. Then we drilled down to a list of different symbols, and we just narrowed down those groups. So now that we see some of these symbols, let's just take here Disney. Over here, we see Disney is up 8% in the pre-market hours, 1.1 million shares. And we get these alerts that it reported earnings. So yesterday reported earnings after the market closed. If we hover over, we could see the news and headline news. And now we're getting more information of what's going on. So now we could kind of explain away, okay, Disney's up in a pre-market, and it's most likely that's reacting to the earnings announcement. Now we could drill down even further. Right now, if I click on Disney, it's going to pop up information on Disney, and now I'm going to have a breakdown of what that trading looks like in a pre-market. All right, we see the volume, 1.1 million, but let's see if we could get more insights. What's happening underneath that volume? Could break it down even further. So here we see, Disney right now is up 7.8%. This is trading 106.88, closed at 99.14. And in the pre-market, this is the range. This is the pre-market stats. The VWAP, the volume weighted average price, was 106.69. So you could see right now we're trading above that VWAP, kind of indicating it's still trending higher, right? So the volume weighted average price is if we took every trade, multiplied the price by the volume, summed them up, took the average. Okay. We see the high and low range, 104.85, 107.93. So now we see that we're trading near the high range of the pre-market activity. And this is the total volume and the float of the amount of shares outstanding. So now let's go down and look down even further. Right. So now we know, okay, it's trading on the high end of the range and still looks like it's, trending above its volume weighted average price. Here we see kind of a graph of what the trading looked like in a pre-market. So you could see here from, 605 up to right now, almost 9 o'clock. Then we could come down and start taking a look at the breakdown of the volume. And we have 3 different graphs here to kind of visualize how the volume and the trades look like. So this buckets the volume and prices over here. So in the gray, these volume bars allow us to know where the concentration of the trading has been in a pre-market. So the longer the volume bar, the more volume traded around those prices. Okay, so over here we see 2 bars here around 106.73, 106.97, and 106.26, 106.49. And this kind of lets us know that, how much volume traded on the top end, how much volume traded on the lower end, relative to each other. Where was most of the concentration? Are there pockets of illiquidity, like a big skip, and so forth? Okay, so now we have kind of that perspective. Let's keep going down further. Well, what type of trades are we seeing here? Is it lots of small retail trades coming in? Is it, does it look like kind of the mid-sized trades where you get, more professional kind of trades where, you get some accounts that are maybe higher net worth trading in bigger sizes? Or is it institutional size trading where the trade size and dollar value are large enough to suggest that these are potential institutions? And here we have a breakdown by very small retail traders, professional and institutional. So it's kind of broken down by color, so it's easier to see. And you could see that each bar, it's the same as this gray bar, showing the volume at each level, but it breaks it down by trader size, trader type. Okay. And, here, we see there's kind of both. We see, small and retail traders participating, professional, institutional. So almost all types of traders right now in a pre-market are participating. The smaller traders they're small. They're not going to make up a big part of the volume usually anyway, but we do see some of them in there. Retail traders look like they're participating. Then you got the professional and institutional. And at every level, we kind of see, how they're participating. It looks like maybe at the top of the range, a bigger portion of it were institutions. In the middle, you got a lot of professional size trades and institutional trades as well. So now let's go and look at it from another perspective. How much of that volume is traded on the lit exchanges, on the public exchanges, like New York Stock Exchange, it could be NASDAQ, ARCA, and how much of the volume is traded in the dark pools on private exchanges. And we could see relative to each other, and we could see even at what levels. So if we look at this, it's the same volume bars, but now they're color-coded to display lit exchange versus dark pools. And looks like that right here around here, there are some big dark pool trades. And then we see, a little bit more evenly distributed around there. it could suggest, what can it suggest? So over here, we see it at 106.26, right? And then the market went above. It could suggest that there was a large amount of liquidity at that place in the dark pools. Maybe that liquidity was taken, right? It could have been a bit, big limit orders, whatever, in the dark pool sitting there. Somebody could have scooped it. And then we saw you could see here that we went to the next level, skipped over this one, went to the next level. And now a lot of it is trading on the lit exchange. So it's an inference, right? Right now, we're just looking at it and we're making an inference that perhaps, a large buyer showed up, got access to liquidity in the dark pools, and then on the next level, now they're going to the lit exchanges. So maybe, not as much liquidity anymore as we go up. That liquidity looks like it was scooped, and the next levels looks like now they're accessing the lit exchanges. So keep in mind, if you're trying to access liquidity, the lit exchanges is probably the last place you want to go. You want to see if you could get it first in the dark pools, right? Because once you start accessing the lit exchanges, you're going to then expose your side, and once you're taking the limit order book on the lit exchanges, you could drive the prices higher. So you're probably looking to get it in the dark pools before, if you're trying to access a lot of liquidity before you go to the lit exchanges. But that's just an inference that I'm making, eyeballing, these charts. Okay. So let's go down a little bit further. And now we have a table. And as you can see here, I'm going from very high level to very, very granular level. By the way, over here, there are also just the headline news, that could help out trying to explain some of the moves. Now we have a VWAP table, and this summarizes the trading activity minute by minute, right? And we could see here that these are the minutes, and this is the trading activity for that minute. This is the on-balance volume for the pre-market. These are the number of trades in that minute. So at 8:53 a.m., we had 120 trades on the tape for a total volume of 6,157 for a VWAP price of 106.89. This is the change of the VWAP from 1 minute to the next, minus 5 cents. This is the high and low price in that minute. And this is the ending bid and offer. And what we could do now is just even visually from this table, we could start to assess the type of liquidity the stock is experiencing in a pre-market. So we could see here that from minute to minute, there are a decent amount of trades. So far we don't see any minutes skipped. There are trades almost every minute in here. And at least a couple thousand shares trading every minute, as much as 13,000, 16,000, we've seen 1,500, 2,000. But a decent amount of liquidity is trading in the pre-market hours, especially this is a $100 stock. And we also see that from minute to minute, how the price ticks are changing. And I'm just eyeballing this, but it looks to me like, probably between 5 and 10 cents. Let me see if we have the stats for that. I thought we had the stats. All right, I can't find them now. But the idea there is now we could kind of see the volume and the price change from minute to minute, the type of liquidity that's trading in a pre-market hour. How's this trading? How do you strategize around it if you did want to trade? We also see the high and low range from minute to minute. So, it looks to me like right now it's around 10 to between 10 and 20 cents.
Hey, D,
Yeah.
we had a question from Ivan, and
Yeah.
Ivan, correct me if I'm wrong with this question. He's asking, what is the delay of publishing info from dark pools? I'm assuming he knows our information is 15-minute delay or more. I don't know if he's asking, when do the dark pools have to publish the information?
Yeah.
How's that get
So,
published?
so our market data is delayed by at least 15 minutes. The dark pool, so that's when we receive it. As far as the dark pool trades go, I forget all the regulations. There might be exceptions, but I think it's like within 1 second of the trade they publish it. I have to look if they change those rules, but there might be exceptions to certain trades, that could be delayed even more. But usually you see the dark pools, report them pretty quickly. As soon as they're trading, the idea is that they're not delaying that. The dark pools. I don't think the dark pools want to delay more than necessary their trades. Like once they match it up, I believe they'll report it to the TRF, and then they report it to the consolidated tape. Or I don't think it's, I think there are exceptions. I mean, there are going to be, certain trades that will be delayed by more. But I think normally they're pretty quick at reporting. I believe they're, within a second of trading, but usually I think it's faster. I think the rule is like within a second, but usually they're faster reporting. But our market feed is delayed by at least 15 minutes.
There you go. Hopefully that helps.
Yep. Keep in mind this, and what I was trying to say yesterday, and why I'm going through this exercise is we're not trying to look at a flickering price and try to do something impulsive. We're trying to understand this data to understand and explain away and able to strategize around it. So this is what we're trying to do, right? Open up and look at the data. So we left off the high low. So now we get like the range. It typically, we could just eyeball the range it typically trades in. And then finally we see the ending bid ask, which is the buy interest sell interest, right? The bid ask spread. And this allows us to visualize, what is typically the bid ask spread. Is it pretty stable? Does it look stationary? Does it look like it narrows and widens out? How liquid is this stock? Okay, because that's extremely important, for order placement, price discovery. How do you strategize around it? Okay. Because if you don't know that, if you're not, aware of how it's trading, the liquidity of it, what prices they're trading around, then you really can't assess your risk, your execution risk. All right. Now, let's go a little bit further. And I think this is where we ended up yesterday. Was what we also noticed is that it reported earnings. So how does this move compare to earnings? So now we have at our fingertips right here, earnings stock pattern, right? So I'm going to click on this and say, well, it's up 7.8% in a pre-market. So let's see, how does Disney typically trade on earnings, right? So here are the earnings, historical earnings dates. Right here are the historical earnings dates at our fingertip. Like we could analyze this right now, and we could see how does it typically trade. Are we trading on the high and low end? Is this typical? So looking back in history, we see how the stock performed before. This is we're looking at day of earnings, and we're looking right now at the opening gap. It didn't open yet, but we see where it's in the pre-market, which is a indication where it may open. And here are the historical moves at the open, and here are the summary stats. So we could see that 55% of the time it tended to open higher, 45% open lower, so kind of even there. On average, it gained 0.3%, indicating that there's a slight bullish skew to the gaps, right? That they're more often they were to the upside, or the magnitude of the gaps to the upside exceeded the magnitude to the gaps to the downside. And on average, the movement up or down, right? If we convert all these to positive numbers, because how much can it move up or down? The absolute average is 5.3%. So if we look at the 7.8, now we could tell, yeah, this is more than average, more than typical, right? We're above that average of up or down 5.3%, 7.8. The historical range of movement is 9.1, 2.4. So we're still in the range. It's still kind of within that high low historical range, but we're on the higher end, right? So this would be a move, closer to the higher end of the historical movements. The median move was up 2.9%, indicating a little bit of a bullish lean. And this is the best move to the upside, worst move to the downside. So now you're getting the highest high move, lowest low move, and we could see that historical range. So this is just showing us, yes, we're up closer to the higher historic on the higher end of things historically. How did the stock perform after the open? So we have some more stats. From the open to the high of the day, average 1.3%. From the open to the low of the day, on average, it was down 3.2%. So this shows us that after the open, the stock was less liquid to the downside than the upside. So the drop-offs were steeper than the rallies. Okay, so you could see that from the open to the low, down 3.2% on average, while to the high 1.3. Okay, and I'm going to finish up here because it's 9:30. How did the stock tend to perform from the open to the end of the day, all the way to the close? We call it the drift. 64% of the time it closed lower, while 36% of the time it closed higher, for an average loss of 1.4%. So that indicates that by the end of the day, historically, there is more weakness than strength. Okay. And on average, the move up or down between the open and close is 2.7%. So it still had some decent volatility from the open to the close, up or down 2.7%. All right. I'm going to end there, Will. We're right up at 9:30. So
awesome job, D. That was super helpful. And thanks for picking up where we were cut off yesterday. Everyone's really appreciative of that. Everyone have a great day. Thanks, Steve.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day and hope to see you guys tomorrow.